Now to that developing news. Crews still working to extinguish a major cargo ship fire that broke out last night at the port of LA.
A quiet night at America's busiest port exploded into chaos, and thousands of Los Angeles residents were suddenly told to stay inside. A massive fire aboard the One Henry Hudson sparked explosions, evacuations, and lockdowns, exposing hidden dangers inside modern container shipping. And before the smoke, before the sirens, before the shelter-in-place alerts, this was just another massive ship doing its job. The vessel at the center of it all was the One Henry Hudson, a giant 8,212 TEU container ship, built to move global trade efficiently and quietly. On paper, nothing unusual, just steel, cargo, and schedules. That Friday evening, it docked at Houston Container Terminal, berth 218, one of the busiest stretches inside the Port of Los Angeles. And that's what made this moment hit harder. The Port of Los Angeles isn't just another harbor, it's the backbone of U.S. imports. Everything from cars to electronics flows through here. In 2025, the port was already on pace to cross 10 million TEUs, a milestone no other Western Hemisphere port has ever reached. Business was booming. Ships were stacked back to back. Timing mattered. So when a vessel this size caught fire while fully docked, it wasn't just a ship problem. It was a national supply chain threat. Delays ripple fast. Terminals freeze. Roads shut down. Communities feel it immediately. Globally, eyes turned toward Los Angeles because this wasn't happening in the open ocean. It was happening at the heart of American trade. And the scary part? At this point, no one yet knew how bad it was about to get. What would you have thought seeing a ship like this parked just miles from your neighborhood? And this is where everything flipped. At 6:38 p.m. on Friday, November 21st, alarms sounded aboard the One Henry Hudson. At first, it didn't look dramatic from the outside. No towering flames, no massive smoke column yet. But the danger was already buried deep inside the ship. The fire started below deck, the worst possible place for such an incident. Early assessments pointed to a likely electrical source, the kind that doesn't just burn, it creeps. Wiring heats up, insulation melts, and before anyone realizes it, flames are threading through steel corridors you can't even see. Below-deck fires are a nightmare for firefighters. These spaces are tight, stacked with containers, and cut off from natural airflow. Heat gets trapped, smoke has nowhere to go, visibility drops to zero. And water? It doesn't always reach the seat of the fire. What made it worse was how fast it spread through multiple sublevels. The fire wasn't staying put. It was moving vertically, slipping between decks, hiding behind cargo walls. Crews couldn't simply open a hatch and hit it head-on. From the outside, the ship still looked calm. Inside, it was turning into a furnace. And here's the terrifying question. How do you fight a fire you can't see, can't reach, and can't even track properly? Just when crews thought they had a handle on the situation, everything got louder and far more dangerous. The fire continued burning deep inside inaccessible cargo areas, places firefighters physically couldn't reach without risking their lives. Heat kept building, pressure kept rising, and then around 8 p.m., the ship jolted. A midship explosion ripped through the One Henry Hudson. In an instant, the vessel lost power. The lights went out. Cranes froze mid-operation. Internal systems shut down. The ship went dark, leaving firefighters operating in near-blackout conditions, surrounded by smoke, heat, and steel. That explosion changed everything. Without power, visibility vanished. Communication became harder. Equipment became unreliable. Every step on board turned into a calculated risk. Firefighters weren't just battling flames anymore. They were fighting a ship that could betray them at any moment. This is the moment the command had to reassess everything. A fire below deck is bad. A fire below deck after an explosion is deadly. Every second on board now carried the threat of another blast, another system failure, another collapse. And that's when the question shifted from, how do we put this out, to something far more urgent. How do we keep everyone alive? If you were in that position, would you stay on board or pull everyone back and fight from a distance?
We begin now with breaking news tonight. A cargo ship fire in San Pedro at the Port of LA in what's being called a major emergency.
And this is where the scale of the situation became impossible to ignore. The Los Angeles Fire Department was first on scene, moving fast as reports confirmed the fire was burning deep inside the ship. Within minutes, this stopped being a routine port response and turned into a full-blown multi-agency emergency. And here's the key detail. Air quality readings remained within normal limits. That didn't mean the danger was imaginary. It meant the precautions worked. Officials chose prevention over reaction, protecting residents before conditions could shift. Once the ship was moved offshore and monitoring confirmed stable readings, the shelter-in-place order was lifted early Saturday morning. For hours, thousands of people waited indoors, watching smoke drift across the sky, knowing a burning ship sat just miles away. How would you have reacted to getting that alert in the middle of the night? And this was the hardest call of the night. As crews gathered more data, one reality became unavoidable. Hazardous materials were confirmed inside multiple container bays, and the fire continued spreading below deck, out of reach and out of sight. Firefighters were operating inside a vessel that had already exploded once. That's when the command decided to withdraw all personnel from the ship. It wasn't about giving up. It was about survival. With limited visibility, rising heat, unstable cargo, and unknown chemical risks, the danger to crews had crossed a line. One wrong move, one hidden reaction, and lives could be lost. So the strategy changed. Instead of interior attacks, teams shifted to remote fire suppression, using master streams from engines and fireboats at a safe distance. No boots on steel, no blind entries. Just controlled, deliberate suppression. Firefighter safety came first. It's a decision the public rarely sees, but it's one that saves lives. No cargo, no schedule, no port operation is worth a firefighter's life. And in that moment, restraint became the smartest move of all. And just when it felt like the situation had stalled, the most delicate move of the entire operation began. This wasn't a decision made on the fly. Overnight planning unfolded hour by hour, with every agency weighing risk against necessity. Keeping a burning container ship tied up inside America's busiest port was no longer an option. Around 3 a.m., crews began the process of undocking the 1 Henry Hudson. Slowly, carefully, no sudden moves. Fireboats held position as escorts, while tugs guided the powerless vessel away from the terminal. As the ship crept forward, it passed beneath the Vincent Thomas Bridge, a moment loaded with tension. Any flare-up, any shift in cargo, any loss of stability could have changed everything. By 4:43 a.m., the vessel was successfully anchored near Angels Gate Lighthouse, roughly a mile offshore. Open water, room to maneuver, distance from homes, terminals, and critical infrastructure. Moving the ship offshore was critical for one reason above all: containment. If the fire worsened, it would do so away from the port, away from neighborhoods, away from fuel lines and stacked terminals. This wasn't about convenience. It was about preventing a cascading disaster. At sea, responders finally had space to breathe and to fight smarter. Once anchored offshore, the fight didn't stop. It just changed shape. By Saturday afternoon, officials confirmed the fire had been isolated to a single cargo hold. That was a turning point. It meant the fire was no longer spreading uncontrollably through the ship. Fireboats from both the Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach maintained a continuous presence, circling the vessel, rotating crews, and keeping water and foam trained on hot zones. Cooling became just as important as suppression. Steel retains heat, and without constant cooling, flare-ups can reignite without warning. Streams stayed steady, temperatures were monitored, no shortcuts. Meanwhile, teams worked on stability and hazard assessments, evaluating how water accumulation and burn cargo were affecting the ship's balance. One miscalculation at this stage could risk capsizing. This is where salvage teams entered the picture. Their role wasn't dramatic, but it was vital, planning the long, careful process of securing the ship, managing damaged cargo, and preparing for eventual recovery. The fire was quieter now, but it wasn't done. And throughout all of this, the U.S. Coast Guard held the perimeter. A half nautical mile safety zone was established around the 1 Henry Hudson, keeping commercial and recreational vessels well clear of the danger area. Traffic was rerouted. Patrols enforced boundaries without exception. The Coast Guard also directed vessel traffic, ensuring the port could continue limited operations while keeping other ships away from heat, smoke, and potential debris. Just as important, search and rescue assets were staged nearby, ready for immediate response if conditions deteriorated or if anyone went overboard during operations. From the moment the fire broke out, the Coast Guard played a central command role, coordinating maritime safety, assisting with hazardous material assessments, and supporting the unified response on water. They weren't just watching, they were managing the risk in real time. Because when a burning ship sits offshore, the line between control and catastrophe is razor thin. And while firefighters battled flames offshore, the Port of Los Angeles felt the immediate shock. Operations ground to a temporary halt. 4 of the 7 container terminals suspended work, halting the flow of cargo and sending ripples through the supply chain. Trucks queued outside gates. Cranes froze mid-lift. Workers waited, unsure when normal operations would resume. Nearby, State Route 47 closed due to smoke and visibility concerns, creating backups that stretched into surrounding neighborhoods. Commuters, local businesses, and port workers all felt the disruption firsthand. For hours, the port, a hub of trade that fuels global imports, was on pause, a reminder of how one incident can ripple far beyond its source. Gradually, as the fire was contained offshore and air quality readings stabilized, operations resumed terminal by terminal, but the economic and logistical implications lingered. Delayed shipments, paused exports, and bottlenecked supply lines were just the tip of the iceberg. It highlighted the vulnerability of even the busiest ports to unforeseen events. One fire, one misstep, and the entire system can be knocked off rhythm. For companies, residents, and workers, it was a sobering wake-up call about how fragile maritime logistics can be in the face of disaster. And as the dust, or rather the smoke, settled, leadership voices spoke out. LAFD Assistant Chief Carlos Calvillo, overseeing operations, emphasized the precision and bravery of his crews, noting how firefighters adapted to below-deck hazards and explosions while keeping everyone safe. Coast Guard Captain Jared DeWitts detailed the coordination required to move the vessel offshore, manage safety zones, and ensure other maritime traffic continued safely. He stressed the importance of interagency collaboration to prevent the fire from becoming a full-scale disaster. Meanwhile, Port of Los Angeles Police Captain Daniel Cobos praised the unified command and meticulous planning that allowed operations to continue at the port, even under extreme conditions. His focus was on crew safety, port security, and uninterrupted cargo flow. Together, their statements painted a picture of calm under chaos, highlighting not just the technical firefighting, but the coordination and leadership required when the stakes are this high. It wasn't just about extinguishing a fire, it was about saving lives, protecting infrastructure, and safeguarding an essential hub of global trade. And this fire isn't just a local story, it's a warning shot for ports worldwide. Container ships have grown bigger and more complex, carrying stacked cargo, hazardous materials, and electronics that can ignite or react unpredictably. Fires that start in one electrical panel can spread through multiple sublevels in minutes. Below-deck areas are notoriously difficult to access, with tight corridors, heat buildup, and limited visibility. Hazardous materials make firefighting exponentially more dangerous. Water isn't always enough. Foam is sometimes needed. Every decision is measured against lives, cargo, and the environment. And even the best-trained crews face limitations in these conditions. For ports, the lesson is clear. Infrastructure and emergency protocols must evolve alongside shipping complexity. Response plans, equipment, and interagency coordination can't lag behind modern risks. Every port that handles container ships needs to anticipate electrical fires, chemical hazards, and inaccessible cargo areas. The 1 Henry Hudson fire showed just how quickly a single incident can impact local communities, national supply chains, and international shipping. Lessons learned here will shape training, protocols, and safety measures for ports around the world. Because one misstep on a single vessel can ripple far beyond the docks, reminding the industry that vigilance is never optional. The 1 Henry Hudson fire was contained, but it revealed how fragile port safety becomes when modern cargo meets old maritime risks. As shipping grows bigger and faster, this incident raises urgent questions about preparedness, hazardous cargo oversight, and how close disaster can come to major coastal cities.